There's a sentence uttered on the papal plane on April 15, 2026 that few listen to carefully. A short sentence. A sentence that, when placed next to something Benedict XVI said 20 years ago, opens up an abyss. By the end of this video, you'll understand why that sentence isn't a minor detail, but the litmus test of a silent breakup, the deepest in the last 20 years. On April 15, 2026, on the return flight from Algeria, Leo XIV answered a question from journalists on the topic of immigration in Europe. His words, reported by Gloria TV and Vatican News, were these: Europeans' fears about immigration are often generated by people who are against immigration and who try to keep out those who come from another country, another religion, another race. This wasn't the Pope's first outburst on this topic during his trip. On April 13th, in Algeria, Leo XIV visited the Great Mosque of Algiers and described it as a divine sacred space, according to Vatican News. The two statements taken together draw a clear line. Mass immigration to Europe, including that from Muslim-majority countries, is defended as a value by the successor of Peter. And those who express concerns about this are, in the Pope's words, traced back to those who want to keep others out. So far, the facts. Now pause for a moment, because there is a precedent of teaching on this topic, a precise documented teaching, pronounced by a Pope who dedicated decades to studying the crisis of European identity. That Pope was Joseph Ratzinger, Benedict XVI. In 2004, before even becoming Pope, Ratzinger published the book Without Roots, together with the philosopher Marcello Pera. The title said it all. In that text, Ratzinger wrote that it is not possible to build a common European home while ignoring the identity of the peoples of our continent. His thesis was simple, yet radical. Europe cannot survive without the Judeo-Christian roots that gave rise to it. True integration requires not only acceptance, but also, and above all, assimilation to those values. Without this, only a precarious coexistence is created, destined to collapse. On April 18, 2005, the day before his election to the papacy, Ratzinger gave a homily pro eligendo pontifex. That phrase has gone down in history. We are building a dictatorship of relativism that recognizes nothing as definitive. In that same homily, Benedict XVI said something that is worth rereading today, word for word. Those who have a clear faith, according to the Church's creed, are often labeled fundamentalists. Meanwhile, relativism, that is, the absence of any criteria for judgment, is presented as the only acceptable position. Do you hear the echo? Those who express concerns about mass immigration are labeled, in the words of the Pope in flight, as someone who wants to keep others out. The mechanism is identical. Those with a clear position are stigmatized. Those without a position are celebrated. But there is a third document, the most important. On September 12, 2008, at the University of Regensburg, Benedict XVII gave a lecture that would shake the world. In that lecture, the Pope quoted Emperor Manuel's II Palaiologos, a quote that cost him weeks of international controversy. The point of the Regensburg lecture wasn't to provoke Islam. It was something much deeper. The Christian faith, said Benedict XV, is intertwined with reason. God is logos, reason, word, order. Violence in the name of God is contrary to God's very nature, because it is contrary to reason. That lesson was an invitation to serious dialogue, not the dialogue of smiles and hugs, but the dialogue that requires the other to confront real questions. It was the opposite of unconditional praise. Now, put it all together. On the one hand, Benedict XVI. Europe has roots that cannot be ignored. Integration requires clear criteria. Relativism is a dictatorship. Dialogue with Islam must be rational and not sentimental. On the other hand, Leo XIV. Europeans' fears about immigration are generated by those who want to exclude. The mosque in Algiers is a divine, sacred space. These are not two different shades of the same magisterium. They are two opposing visions of Europe, of Christian identity, of dialogue with Islam. And this opposition has never been publicly mentioned. No cardinal has mentioned it. No bishop has recorded it in the minutes. The disagreement is there, in the documents, but it's as if it didn't exist. Why? Perhaps because naming her would be too expensive. Perhaps because the current ecclesiastical system has no room for those who say, wait, there's a contradiction here. Perhaps because the dictatorship of relativism that Benedict XVI spoke of has also found a home within the Vatican walls. There is a striking detail. The lecture in Regensburg was one of the occasions when Benedict XVI was most harshly attacked, from outside and quietly from within the church. He didn't retract the meaning of the lecture. He said he'd been misunderstood about the quote, but he defended the core of the speech: faith and reason, Europe and identity, serious dialogue, not performance. 15 years later, his successor, on the papal plane, summarized the identity concerns of Europeans as the product of those who want to keep others out. There is no reasoned response to the Regensburg lecture. There is no comparison with Without Roots. There is only a silent inversion. And the cardinal's silence in this is part of the problem, because a magisterium that is overturned without debate isn't progress, it's an erasure. The gulf is not between Islam and Christianity. The gulf is within the church itself, between those who have built a magisterium on European identity and Christian reason, and those who today respond to the concerns of millions of European Catholics with an implicit accusation of exclusivity. Benedict XVI warned us. He said that relativism would become a dictatorship. He said that anyone who maintains a clear faith is labeled a fundamentalist. He was talking about the future, and the future is now. What do you think? If you liked the video, comment Amen. God bless you.